Ever get that feeling like someone's listening in? Well, today's deep dive takes us straight into that fear. We're cracking open George Orwell's 1984 to explore why it still gives everyone chills all these years later. And let me tell you, having an expert along for this ride, lifesaver.
Right. Glad to be here.
All right, so listeners, imagine this. The future,
Rare.
but not the fun kind. No flying cars, just Big Brother watching your every move. It's like the opposite of a utopia, a dystopia. You know, like Brave New World or that book, Fahrenheit 451.
Exactly. Those are great examples. Dystopias, they take our worst fears about power and tech and really just turn them up to 11.
Right. And the crazy thing is, Orwell, predicted so much of it. I mean, we're glued to our screens now, kind of like those telescreens in the book. Always watching, listening makes you think, doesn't it?
It sure does. And it's even more unsettling when you remember Orwell was writing in the shadow of World War II.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Totalitarian regimes, they weren't some abstract idea to him. They were a lived reality.
So that whole 1984 thing, that wasn't random, huh?
Not at all. It was a warning, a what-if about the path the world was on. Like, what if these trends towards control just kept accelerating?
And one of the ways he shows that is with Newspeak, right?
Yes, Newspeak. That was Orwell's way of saying, control language, control thought.
It still blows my mind. Like, you can't even say bad in Oceania. It's an ungood. Like, what?
Precisely. It makes you wonder, if you eliminate the words, do you eliminate the feelings, the concepts themselves?
Whoa, okay, that's kind of where we're at now with all this debate about, what words mean, censorship, political correctness.
Yeah.
It gets messy.
It really does. Are we shaping language, or is language shaping us?
Big question. And it's all happening in this world where just thinking the wrong thing can get you in deep. Enter Winston Smith.
Winston. Our everyman hero, right?
Well, he's just trying to hold on to some kind of truth. Even keeping a diary is like an act of rebellion.
And it's no coincidence that he works at the Ministry of Truth, right?
Oh, man. Talk about irony.
His job is literally to rewrite history, to make sure the past fits the party's narrative.
Propaganda city. And it feels scarily familiar in this age of fake news and all that.
It's eerie, isn't it? Orwell seemed to predict just how much we'd be struggling with misinformation.
Totally. And those telescreens, always watching, they're not just about surveillance, are they? They're controlling what we see, what we hear, what we think.
Absolutely. And remember, Orwell had firsthand experience with censorship during the war. He knew what he was writing about.
Yeah, he saw the dangers up close. But even with all that, Winston, he's still got this spark in him, this need for something real, something human.
Right. He hasn't completely succumbed to the party's control.
Exactly. And that's where Julia comes in, this dark-haired girl who kind of throws a wrench in the works.
Yeah, Julia. Their love story is, well, it's pretty daring, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's like love is rebellion. The party wants to control everything, even their feelings, but they find a way to connect.
It's a testament to the enduring power of human connection. Even in this bleak, oppressive world, they find solace and meaning in each other.
Makes you wonder if love could actually survive in a place like Oceania, with Big Brother always watching.
It's a question Orwell grapples with throughout the novel. And then, of course, we have the enigmatic figure of O'Brien entering the picture.
Right, O'Brien, this inter-party member who's kind of hard to read.
He's a master of manipulation. At first, Winston sees him as a potential ally, someone who might share his doubts about the party.
He wants to believe it so badly. He's looking for any sign of hope.
Exactly. He sees O'Brien as a potential link to the Brotherhood, this rumored resistance movement led by Emmanuel Goldstein.
The stuff of legend. You have to wonder if Winston's just projecting his own desire for rebellion onto O'Brien, though,
Absolutely. It's like he's grasping at straws, desperate for someone who understands the burden of his secret thoughts. And Orwell keeps us guessing, too, about O'Brien's true allegiances. Is he a friend, a foe, or something in between?
Seriously, every conversation between those two, it's like walking on eggshells. You just know something's going to crack.
Because that's the thing about totalitarian regimes, isn't it? The ever-present threat of betrayal and the constant fear of the unknown.
And that unknown, it can be just as powerful as any weapon. Talk about your unknowns, right? Like that feeling when you know something bad is about to happen, and then bam! It hits you like a ton of bricks.
And in Winston's case, that bam is getting caught. Their little bubble of rebellion popped.
Just like that. And it gets brutal fast. The party doesn't mess around, especially in the Ministry of Love, which is just like the opposite of love.
Right. Orwell's use of language there is chilling. The Ministry of Love is where they break you psychologically.
Torture, plain and simple. And a big part of that is this whole doublethink thing, right?
Exactly. doublethink. It's like the ultimate mind game, holding two contradictory beliefs at the same time and accepting both.
Like, how's that even possible? It makes my head spin just thinking about it.
It's supposed to. It shows how totalitarian regimes manipulate language and thought itself. The famous example, of course, is 2 + 2, 5.
Right. 2 + 2 = 5. I mean, it's clearly wrong, but they make you believe it.
Because in Oceania, denying objective truth is the ultimate form of control.
It's terrifying. And then there's Room 101. Just the name sends shivers down my spine.
Room 101 is where they take your worst fear, that thing that keeps you up at night, and they weaponize it.
You don't even have to tell us what Winston's worst fear is. Just the idea, the anticipation. It's enough to make anyone crack.
Exactly. Orwell masterfully builds the suspense, showing how psychological manipulation can be just as effective, if not more so, than physical torture.
And in the end, Winston, he breaks. He betrays Julia to save himself.
It's heartbreaking, but also a testament to the power of fear, right? The instinct to survive can drive us to do unimaginable things.
Even betray the person you love most. It makes you wonder, what would any of us do in that situation?
It's a question with no easy answers, and it leads us to that gut-wrenching ending. Winston, completely broken, embracing Big Brother.
He loved Big Brother. Still gives me chills. It's like this cautionary tale. A reminder of what happens when we give up our freedom, our critical thinking.
Exactly. 1984 isn't just a story, it's a warning about the dangers of unchecked power, of manipulation, of surrendering our freedom for the illusion of security.
And that message, it's more relevant now than ever, right?
Absolutely. It reminds us to be vigilant, to question everything, to cherish our freedom of thought, because once we lose those things, they're not easily regained.
Wow. Powerful stuff. Big thanks to you for this incredible deep dive into 1984. It's been intense, but seriously eye-opening.
My pleasure. Always glad to dive into Orwell.
And listeners, we hope this has given you plenty to think about. What would you do in Winston's shoes? Could you stand up for what you believe in, even when it seems like the whole world is against you? Keep those questions in mind, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.